Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we take the sources you share with us and, well, we extract the most important nuggets of knowledge.
Our mission is always the same, really, to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Exactly. You get the knowledge quickly, but you also get it thoroughly, without all the noise.
And today's deep dive is, it's all about precision. The sources you sent in really zero in on intellectual status and just how powerful a specific vocabulary can be.
I loved that one line from the material.
Oh, the one about clothes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That words are the clothes your thoughts wear. It makes so much sense. If you want your ideas to be taken seriously, they need to be dressed well.
High-quality fabric, tailored for the occasion. Absolutely.
I love that. So if we're tailoring our intellectual wardrobe today, what are the, say, 3 foundational pieces we're focusing on?
Okay, so we're diving into the distinct nuances of 3 really powerful adjectives that describe intellectual states. We have cognizant, didactic, and erudite. And the goal isn't just to, learn the definitions. It's to master the very specific context where each one is essential.
Providing that shortcut to describing intellectual depth accurately. That's exactly what our listeners are looking for, those subtle differences that just sharpen everything.
It's all in the nuance.
Okay, let's unpack this right now. We should start with the most fundamental state, right? The state of awareness.
Let's start right at the foundation.
Our first word is cognizant. That's spelled C-O-G-N-I-Z-A-N-T. Now, the basic definition is, having knowledge or being aware of something.
Right.
So my first question is, if the goal is precision, why do we need this word? We already have aware or knowing. What's the extra layer here?
That is the key question. And it really gets to the unique value of cognizant. See, just knowing something that can be completely passive. You read a headline, you know a fact. End of story.
Okay.
But the nuance with being cognizant is that it implies a much deeper level of mindfulness, of active processing.
So it's not just having the information, it's operating with that information.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's it exactly. The source material really stresses this. If you are cognizant of a fact or a risk, it means you've processed it, you've accepted its reality.
And you're actively keeping it in mind.
Yes. As you build your strategy, as you make your decisions, it's the difference between, say, reading the safety manual and actually integrating those safety practices into your daily routine.
I see. So it elevates the whole idea from just like passively receiving information to actively integrating it.
Exactly.
In a professional setting, being aware feels like a starting point, but being cognizant, that implies a level of responsibility.
That is the core difference. Think about that business context from the source. Being cognizant of the budget isn't just knowing the number.
Right.
It means every single decision you make, sourcing, hiring, marketing, is actively filtered through that financial constraint. If you're only aware of the budget, you might blow past it by accident.
But if you're cognizant, you're constantly checking your actions against it.
Constantly. It makes the word highly operational. It's a word of action.
That makes a lot of sense.
And we can even apply this to, interpersonal dynamics. You might know your friend is under stress. But if you are cognizant of their stress,
Or change your behavior.
you proactively adjust.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't ask them to take on an extra task. You choose a calmer place to meet. It requires continuous active attention.
That real-world application really makes it stick. The source example highlights this perfectly. As we move forward with the expansion, we must remain cognizant of the potential risks to our local supply chain. It's not just a warning. It's a mandate for ongoing risk assessment.
It speaks volumes about discipline, doesn't it? It dictates proactive behavior, not reactive. You aren't just waiting for the supply chain to break.
You're cognizant of its fragility and working around it.
Exactly.
Okay, that is a really rich discussion on that internal state of active awareness. So now let's talk about how we package that knowledge when we decide to share it.
The delivery.
Right. That transitions us perfectly to our next word, which is all about the style of communication. Didactic. D-I-D-A-C-T-I-C.
This is where delivery meets content. The word's Greek origin, meaning to teach, is a good starting point. But the modern usage is, well, that's where the deep dive really begins.
The straightforward definition is simply intended to teach. But the source adds this critical detail. It often includes moral instruction as an ulterior motive.
That ulterior motive is everything. It's the key. If a text or a speech is didactic, its ultimate goal is not just neutral information transfer.
It's a lesson.
It's delivering a specific lesson, often a moral or philosophical one. Think of the classic fables. They are designed to teach virtue or caution.
So stories we all grew up with, like the tortoise and the hare, they're inherently didactic. The plot only exists to serve that moral at the end.
That's the pure classic form, yes. But if we connect this to modern communication, we have to look at how it's perceived. And this is the great pitfall of the word didactic.
Right, if you call someone's tone or their work didactic, it's usually not a compliment. But why is that? I mean, isn't teaching a good thing? Why does it become negative?
That raises a really important point about, I think, intellectual respect. While teaching is good, using the word didactic as a critique often implies that the creator didn't trust the audience.
Didn't trust them to get it on their own.
Exactly. They didn't trust them to arrive at the right conclusion themselves.
Ah, so it comes across as condescending.
Precisely. When a piece is labeled too didactic, the feeling is that the story or the art or the intellectual subtlety was all sacrificed just for the sake of hammering home the lesson.
The speaker is acting like a know-it-all.
Yes, prioritizing the sermon and assuming there's this huge knowledge gap or even a moral gap between them and the audience.
It's the difference between laying out the facts and letting people draw their own conclusions versus, forcing a conclusion on them with a really heavy hand.
A very heavy hand.
Yeah.
If your work is called didactic, it means your agenda was too obvious, and it overwhelmed the experience for a critical viewer. It's a shortcut to saying, this felt preachy.
The source example really drives this home. It said, while the movie was visually stunning, many critics found the script a bit too didactic, as if it were lecturing the audience on how to live.
See? They're separating the art from the message's delivery.
They valued the visual craft, but rejected the heavy-handed moralizing.
It's a fantastic piece of critical language.
Right.
It doesn't dismiss the content. It criticizes the delivery, the high-quality clothes that turned out to be too stiff and uncomfortable.
That's a powerful connection. To communicate effectively, we have to be cognizant that our style might become too didactic.
That's the whole game right there.
Okay, so we've covered active awareness with Cognizant and the style of delivery with Didactic. Let's move to our final concept, the one defining the actual quality and depth of the knowledge itself. Let's talk about Erudite, E-R-U-D-I-T-E.
This is the pinnacle, the peak of knowledge acquisition.
It certainly sounds like it. The definition is having or showing great knowledge or learning. So I'll play devil's advocate again. Why not just say someone is smart or well-read? Where does Erudite find its specific, necessary place?
The necessity is in the source of the knowledge, the process. When you describe someone as erudite, you're actually honoring the discipline behind their learning. Source material is very clear on this. Erudite knowledge is gained through serious study and extensive reading. It implies that the intellectual structure was built brick by, slow brick.
So someone who can memorize thousands of facts for trivia night might be smart, but they're not necessarily erudite.
That captures the core difference perfectly. Smart people can be quick absorbers of information. Erudite people are deep synthesizers of complex topics, often academic or historical.
One is retrieval, the other is integration.
Exactly. Trivia is factual retrieval. Erudite knowledge is intellectual integration. It's sophisticated. It reflects a real dedication to scholarly pursuit.
So it's the difference between knowing what happened in World War I versus understanding the nuanced philosophical shifts that led to it, and then being able to connect those shifts to today.
Precisely. It implies a high level of sophistication that comes from connecting fields that seem separate. History, psychology, literature, physics. The knowledge isn't just in silos.
It's woven into a worldview.
A profound, comprehensive worldview.
And the source gave us that great mental image, that visualization of the truly erudite professor.
Yes, that professor who, in a single lecture, can reference ancient Greek philosophy, then seamlessly shift to a modern quantum physics concept.
And then use a 17th century poem to tie it all together.
Exactly. The ease with which they navigate centuries of thought. That is the signature of being erudite. It shows their depth is functional, it's graceful, it's integrated.
That level of intellectual connectivity is what makes their insights so valuable, so memorable.
The source example shows the elegance of it. The guest speaker delivered an erudite lecture on the evolution of language, weaving together history and psychology with ease.
That one word, erudite, it just conveys the authority and the grace of the presentation.
It does. When you hear that word, you automatically recognize the effort and the seriousness behind the intellectual achievement.
That brings us perfectly to our synthesis. We've covered 3 critical ways to define intellectual interaction, from the internal state of mind to the depth of learning to how we communicate it. Let's recap those 3 high-quality outfits for our thoughts.
We started with Cognizant, being fully aware, mindful, and actively integrating facts into your decisions, the foundation of professional discipline.
Next, we examine didactic communication that's designed to teach, often with a moral angle, which carries that big risk of sounding preachy if you're not careful.
And finally, erudite,
Yeah.
showing great sophisticated and deeply integrated knowledge that's gained through serious, dedicated study. It separates deep knowledge from just quick, superficial smarts.
So let's talk application.
Oh.
How do these three words force the listener to behave differently? How do they all interact?
They create what I call a crucial triangle of responsibility. An erudite person who has all this vast, deeply studied knowledge must first be cognizant of their audience.
Their starting point, what they already know.
Their needs, yes. Only then can they decide whether to use a didactic style. If that deeply learned speaker fails to be cognizant of the context,
It all falls apart.
it all falls apart. Their erudite knowledge, delivered didactically without awareness, won't educate. It will alienate. It sounds like a lecture delivered to an empty room.
So the ultimate point is that deep knowledge, being erudite, is almost worthless if you lack the awareness, being cognizant, to apply it with the right tone.
That's the entire lesson right there. Intellectual mastery isn't just about knowing, it's about skillful application.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day, building on everything we've discussed. Consider a complex subject you're passionate about. How can you demonstrate that high level of erudite depth, showing the rigor of your study without becoming overly didactic in how you explain it? And how does being truly cognizant of that delicate balance define you as a sophisticated communicator?
Finding that balance.
Yeah.
That's the real essence of moving from just possessing knowledge to becoming an intellectually skilled guide.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into intellectual vocabulary. We hope you feel a little sharper, a little more ready to choose the right words for your ideas. Go out there and be cognizant of the powerful new language you've added to your arsenal today.
We'll catch you on the next one.